They are a beloved staple here in Atlanta, and in this room right here, this is where King of Pops are made. Thousands of them before they are loaded up in those famous carts you see all around town. And in this episode of the Lucie Spotlight series, we're sitting down with the co-founder, Steve Kars. Lucie, the name means light. The majority of our team has worked in newsrooms throughout the country. We've seen the negatives. At Lucie, we explore the positives. And through this video series, we spotlight them. People, places, businesses, nonprofits, you name it. Storytelling is at the heart of our company, and we know sharing a story makes connections. It's simple, informative, and empowering. So without further ado, let's go. Steve, thank you so much for joining us. Congrats on your success.
Thank you.
I mean, you guys are an Atlanta staple and then growing beyond.
Yeah.
Why don't we go back to the very early days? You're working an insurance job and something happens. Tell us what happened. Walk us through that.
Yeah, 2008, I was at AIG. It's a large insurance company, and it happened to be one of the big headlines of the Great Recession. So, watching the news to kind of see what's going on with your company is never the place you want to be.
Right.
I was the cheapest person in the building, probably. I was up in Alpharetta working in the agency auto part of the business, and saw several layoffs, made it through 2 or 3, and then I got laid off. So I had this dream of starting this business with my brothers. My oldest brother's an anthropologist. He was doing field work in Ecuador and then Panama and several places throughout Latin America. The paleta is a big part of the culture down there, and we fell in love with that product. So when I lost that job, it seemed like there are no sure things, and I was 25 at the time, felt like, let's try it. I didn't really have any excuses, and felt like insurance would be there if I needed to come back to it.
So what was the spark moment, the aha moment that I need to do this?
I think that was it, getting pushed off the ledge of like, I can go move, apply for other jobs, continue that. I come from a family of storytellers, and so I imagined myself 70, 80, sitting on my front porch trying to explain what I was doing and not having something fun to kind of talk about. So in the back of my mind, I felt like even if I do this for 1 year, that'll be a good investment. And here we are 15 years later. So it's been certainly not what any of us thought. I thought it'd be a little fun story to tell and then move on, get back to the real world.
Right.
And here we are.
So the paletas, they'd been around for forever.
Forever,
right?
yeah.
And you see them a lot in the Mexican restaurants. I was talking to a guy who works in San Antonio, and we were talking about the paletas. He's like, yeah, those have been in the U.S. for as long as I've been here.
Yeah.
And so how do you break into that market? What was your differentiator?
Yeah, I think there's several things. Just like with anything, there's good, medium, and bad, and then exceptional. So if you go to Mexico and you have a paleta, it might not be that good, but there are some really good ones if you kind of seek them out. And so we got inspired by the super high quality ingredients, interesting flavor combinations, mixing them together. And honestly, the first 3 or 4 months, we tried to just replicate what they were doing, and it wasn't as good. It was kind of, our breakthrough, I think, was like incorporating what we like about food where we live in the South. So whether that's banana pudding, which isn't like, that's not a typical Latin flavor, but is one of our best. A lot of stuff with peach and the fruits and flavors that we're used to here, sweet tea and lemonade. I think once we did that, combined with the idea of super high ingredients, all handmade, I think that's where we really started to stand out on the product side of things. And then mix in the cart piece, which is really harder to describe why it is special, and magic kind of happened. People in the US typically do not aspire to build cart businesses. So you fairly quickly see, I got a food truck in order to get a kitchen, in order to have a real business. And we've flipped that on its head a little bit. We're focused on the cart business as our differentiator. It allows us to be a lot of places, but also it's kind of fun. It's different for people. They're not used to having a great experience at a cart, and we're trying to provide that.
So you were on the couch at Nick's house, right? And you started it, correct? And then you recruited him in?
Yeah, correct. So I was, when I got laid off, I'd already bought a condo. I rented that out, moved onto his couch. He didn't have an available room at the time. He had a couple roommates, and started messing around with stuff. And he was helping me nights and weekends, but he was a lawyer. He was actually a prosecutor in Gwinnett County. And yeah, it got to the point about a month or two in where I was like, I'm gonna have to hire somebody. I'd love for you to do this with me, and if you're up for it, we can just be 50-50 partners. And it was kind of, it wasn't as intense as this sounds. So I was like, but if not, I'll just go hire somebody and whatever, but the 50-50 thing will kind of be off the table. And yeah, he thought about it, put in his letter of resignation. After he had put in the letter of resignation, my dad wrote him this pleading letter not to quit. He didn't tell him that he'd already put in his notice. And the rest is kind of history. I sat at that gas station, North Avenue, North Highland, Buddy's, for basically 3 years, every day when it was warm enough. And he did all the events. So he would go to weddings and graduations and festivals and farmers markets. So I was kind of cultivating a regulars, and he was really building what ends up making our business profitable, the ability to tack on to that, going to all these various random things.
So you're sitting at Buddy's,
yeah,
with one of your carts.
Yep.
What is going through your mind during that time? Have I made the right decision, or yes, this is the right decision?
Fairly quickly it did. The first pop I sold, I'll never forget. I'm sitting there. The cart was, to do the full story, it was a bit of a pivot itself. I did imagine having a store. I had saved up $7,000. I didn't know I was going to need a grease trap. I thought I could kind of just MacGyver everything together. And then when the inspector came out, on a pre-inspection to look at my plans, they're like, oh yeah, you need a grease trap. Got a quote for that. That's 35 grand. I'm like, all right, let's do something else. So I get a cart. I've got a shared kitchen down the street. I push the cart up there for about a little over half mile. It's not a bad push. But I pass construction sites, and I've got all these kind of funky flavors like tangerine basil and pineapple habanero. They look at it, they're like, maybe strawberry or something. I don't want that. Past an elementary school or preschool, same thing. All just getting to my spot. So I sit there the first couple days, and I'm like, okay, yeah, this was a horrible mistake. But what happened, there's just enough, and Atlanta's great in this way. It's a very supportive culture for startup business. I think if this had been in LA or New York, people would have just walked by and ignored me. But people kind of wanted me to succeed. So eventually, a nice mom walks up, buys a grapefruit mint. I don't know why all of my flavors in the beginning had herbs. I'm into herbs, but every flavor doesn't need to have an herb in it. She got grapefruit mint and bought it, walks back to her car. It's just kind of staring at me as she eats it. And I'm like, is this a health inspector? What is she doing? Am I about to get shut down? She walks back, and I'm literally turning my body away from her, just trying to make her disappear in my mind. And she buys 5 more. She said, I want to take these to my neighbors, have them try them. And that really was the catalyst. Once people tried the product, they could tell that it was really high quality, and we were putting a lot of energy and thought into that. And people come back, they wanted to bring their friends. And it started to be almost intimidating, because I was a cart in a gas station parking lot, and people were driving from Alpharetta and Gainesville and Macon even, to come wait in line to get a pop out of a tiny little push cart. And that buzz lasts maybe a year or two, and then you kind of have to build a real business around it, which we've been able to do.
Well, so you have people driving from all over to come to your cart.
Yeah.
Your branding's fantastic. How much of a part does that play for you all in becoming a lifestyle brand too?
Yeah, huge. I spent a lot of time thinking about the name, and I had a great friend who kind of, for Undermarket, built our logo out when we were starting. And yeah, I think it was a huge part. We got really lucky. I'd like to say I have some sense. I think what we take a lot of pride in is trying a lot of things and then editing really well. I don't think we necessarily have all the best ideas, but when we see a good idea, I think we're pretty good at running with it. So yeah, I think the brand is a huge part of it. I think it started to attract people. It's like a Hopefully a little bit silly, but also like we do think we make the best pops. And I don't think in the early days we necessarily thought that, but now we kind of have been around for a while, and we do feel like we want to aspire to make the best pops in the world. That's a subjective thing, so maybe we do, maybe we don't. But yeah, the branding is crucial, 100%.
Let's go back to that moment where you're kind of turning your back.
Yeah.
And you think this woman might be a health inspector.
Yeah.
So many business owners at a point, they're like, I don't know if this is going to work out. Explain what you can teach them from your experience about keep pushing forward and having belief in what you're doing.
Yeah, I think it sounds, hokey to say out loud, but in our business in particular, you don't really fail until you just quit. So it's really just up to you. It's different maybe than if you have you have like a 20,000 square foot 4-wall business and you've got a lease. Like you can just literally, they can come and shut you down. But for us, it's all about hustle. And I think usually that lesson can be applied to most parts of your life, certainly most business, where just keep adjusting. We never really aspired to do like hockey stick growth. And so I think that kept us in a fairly safe spot. We've grown like 20 to 30%. And I mean, like our good friend Warren Buffett, like that compounds over time, so it starts to make a bigger difference. Like people, when they say we've blown up, I'm like, have we? Like, I've seen a lot of companies make $1 billion and then go out of business or get sold. We're just like kind of trucking along steady growth. So I think the headlines oftentimes don't represent the reality of most small business, which is do what you can, push hard with your own resources, and try to just grow at like a sustainable, steady pace. I wish we could glamorize that a little bit more, but it's just not as attractive as the get rich quick idea.
Well, speaking of growth, where do you plan on taking this growth-wise? Where do you want to be in the next 5-10 years?
Yes, we've really focused on our cart product. So started with the cart, we branched out like crazy. We have a farm, we had a food distribution business that we recently sold. We did tree elves, we have a couple bars, we have ice cream that we started to put in products. So we kind of spread too wide, thinking like, this is fun, and I do think that's fun. But we're really focused on the cart experience. We started franchising in COVID. It was like our pivot to basically stay in business. People used to call and say like, hey, could I get a cart and sell in my neighborhood? And we'd be like, thanks, but no thanks, we're flattered. When you're facing something like a pandemic and someone calls and they're willing to pay you money, you just kind of like, okay, let's get rolling. And that was magic because it was people that knew what was going on in their specific neighborhoods. During the pandemic, it was kind of a figure out what's going on in your community and serve your community in that way. And that was really difficult to do from like a corporate sales team that's used to calling on Delta and Emory and large businesses. We didn't know about the neighborhood barbecue in Canton that they were doing at the end of their street. So we started franchising fairly quickly, and that was exactly how Nick and I started the business. So now we have franchisees as far north as DC, as far west as Denver, and we're helping them start their business. Really, it's the exact same strategy. It's show up at events, give them a great experience. If it's not a great event, let that be your marketing spend. Instead of spending a bunch of money on impressions on Instagram and stuff like that, we invest in the cart being at as many places as possible. And you want as many of those to be wins as you can, but that's how we market the business, for people to see it. And it's been good. We've been growing pretty quickly that way, and we've got distribution relationships set up to feed all of the East Coast, and we're working on moving further west. So that's the goal.
Walk us back into the idea where you said, you know what, we need a farm. We need to start growing.
It was not ever that we needed a farm. It was that we are hyper aware of how challenging it is to be a local farmer, to do sustainable practices, organic sometimes, delicious always. That's our motto. So we wanted to be in it with them so we could better understand it. And then from a marketing side, it kind of perpetuates that idea. So we have blackberries and blueberries and basil and mint. We're trying to grow pawpaw. That's like my white whale. I want to grow pawpaw enough so we can make a pop. That's like one of the only fruits local to Georgia, but It is not very grocery store friendly, so we don't see it on shelves. So yeah, it was about being fun, you know. We want the business to be fun. We wanted to host events there. We wanted to bring customers out there to have a pop and pull a weed. We did our composting out there. So it felt like the right thing to do. And then at the same time, so that's the felt like fun side. On the business side, a 75-acre farm already is probably a challenge if you're the one out there running the tractor and doing all the stuff. It's really hard to do if you're employing people at like a sustainable wage. So we still have it. It's a passion project for sure. And our goal in the beginning was to get 10% of our produce from the farm. You know, I'm not sure we'll ever hit that because we're growing pretty quickly, but make a couple flavors a year highlighting the farm stuff. And you know, if we ever do hit that hockey stick growth stage, we'll invest and make it a beautiful like wedding venue type vibe. But for now, it's just like it's a real working farm. It's pretty, but it's not like you wouldn't necessarily want to have your wedding there, although people do ask all the time.
That's good. You said it's about having fun. You wrote the book, Work is Fun.
Yeah.
Where did this idea come about? How's the reception been to your book?
Yeah, the book, I wanted to write a book. I was a journalist. My first job pre-insurance was a sports journalist. I got caught up in the I need to make more money phase. I don't know why that clicks in at some point. I was loving that job. So writing's always been a part of, you know, my routine. So I've written a lot of stuff. Started to compile it into a book, and I hired a writing coach. He started reading what I had already written, and we landed on that theme because really quickly, what I love about leading this business is for 98% of people, this is not going to be their forever job. Maybe no one other than Nick and myself. But this can be an awesome jumping off point. Just like Chick-fil-A has this legendary, if you see it on your resume, you know they've been through both good training and they've also been recruited well. We don't have that. Like I'm not gonna sit here and say we're at Chick-fil-A training level, but what we have that is really special is this opportunity for people to come here, be really resourceful, because when you push a cart out, whether you've been through 2 days of training or 200, like you're on your own, you're gonna have issues that happen and you have to kind of work on them on their own. So we have this really special brand, I think, of training that's happening, and that's been important. I think that's where I leaned into the idea of work being fun. Just watching these guys, some of them having this be the best job that they've ever had. They love it. They talk about it forever. They do catering when they go get their office job 5 years from now. And then other people like not having any fun. So I wrote the book for both of them, hopefully to have the people that are having fun to realize which parts are fun, and hopefully they can apply that to their next job, because what I see happen in my own life when I was at AIG is you show up and you think you're supposed to just go through a very specific motion and not necessarily understand all the things that are happening. But I wish I would have been asking more questions. I wish I would have been like understanding the point.
Every business hits a wall. You explained one of the walls that you hit in the early days.
Yeah.
What other walls have you hit, and how have you all been able to push through it?
Well, there's a wall called winter. It hits us every year. We go from kind of being the talk of the town, everyone will pick up the phone, to, yeah, I'll talk to you in the spring. I think that's been the hardest part. The first few years it was terrifying, like, are people just gonna forget about us? The wall we're hitting now is like, how do we have a 7-8 month business and continue to develop people when we have not a zero revenue period, but pretty low? So that's been a big challenge, just to continue to understand what we're gonna need the next year, get staffed up, get equipment proper for the level of growth that we want. That's the wall that kind of is coming to mind, but it's not really like, it's not new to us. It's just a different challenge the larger we get. The more trucks you have on that are leased, the more expenses you have out, the more you kind of need to understand the financing part of it.
At Lucie, we're all about business storytelling, really humanizing your business.
Yeah.
How do you all continually tell the King of Pop story?
Yeah, we have a vision that we wrote It's a big part of orientation and understanding. I think it's just like, people usually assume that the thing you've told them once, so that could be a company's purpose. Usually companies have a good purpose, and they just say it maybe once or twice early on, and then they don't really say it. The hardest part has been just like repeating it. As a leader, that's probably your biggest job, repeating what needs to be heard over and over. You think you can tell someone, whether it's something very tactical, like how to do something in training once or twice, but the same goes for culture pieces, the same goes for core values, and our company purpose is creating unexpected moments of happiness. Like, I've said it a lot, it's hard to keep saying it, but that's part of it. That's kind of my job.
Tell us about how you guys, Nick was working on the events, weddings,
Yeah.
Have really broken into that vertical for your business.
It's so slow, like it's word of mouth, just like the product. When someone tastes a grapefruit mint or whatever, you work with a wedding planner, well, they're gonna start booking more business with you. You start working at a private school or a public school, they're gonna start booking. So it's really like waiting for your opportunity and then doing it well. We try our best to have just a reputation that we're gonna make sure this is a great experience. I think that's easy to say, hard to do. That's been our philosophy.
What do you look for in someone when you are hiring them?
Kind of depends on the job. We kind of have gone back and forth over the years. There is, I'd say, enthusiasm more than anything. It's pretty straightforward to get trained on selling out of a cart or selling or making pops, but it's hard to get somebody excited about it if they aren't. So to go back what we were talking about before, like, we try to frame it as, yes, you're making pops now, maybe you're putting the sticks in the aligner, and that's a pretty tedious job. What can you do to make that slightly more fun? And what can you take from this? Like, how do you want people to remember you at this spot? Work that way. How is that? I don't even know who to attribute this quote to, but like, the way that you're doing something now is the way that you're going to do something forever. So whether that's working out, like I'm going to start working out next week, you're probably not. Like, you have to think about the decisions you're making right now or what you're going to do forever. I think that's the same for work. Like, you should take ownership, you should have fun with it, you should take pride in it early on. And we try to instill those in folks. And the way that you do that, I think, is in interviewing is, are you enthusiastic? If we're pulling teeth to get you to, say what your favorite flavor is, even if you're in production or not, that doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't necessarily matter. Like, it's probably an indicator of how everything else is going to go.
King of Pops is an Atlanta staple. You guys, we talked about it, y'all are everywhere. Do yoga, you're at the gas stations, you're all over the
Braves.
Beltline, Braves. I've seen you at weddings.
Yeah.
How important is it for businesses to be so deeply rooted in their local community?
I think it's everything, especially if you're a small business. We have a great product, we have a great experience, but you really just win on continuing to show up, continuing to push. You can't really ever rest on past reputation. Culture is like continually changing. To attribute a quote that I do know, like Jason Fried from Basecamp talks about, your culture's a moving 60-day average. So every 60 days it's changing. You want to just set what it is. You don't get to set what it is. It's whatever the last, and you can pick it could be 100 days or 30 days, whatever you want to pick. But the idea is it's constantly shifting. If you ever aren't working on it and focusing on it, it's going to, typically, entropy. It's going to go the wrong way. And you don't get to pick your culture as a leader. Like, our culture has changed a lot over the years, and I still think it's a good culture, but it's very different from when Nick and I were going out to the bars after a long day with everyone when we were 25. Like, I'm going home now to hang out with my 4-year-old and take her to ballet or swim practice or something like that. So figuring out really where you're going to be and be honest about it. What's your culture going to be will shift and evolve, and leaning into that.
What is something that you wish you had known back when you were 25 and launching this?
I don't think we would have made it maybe if I would have known this. but I think it's the truth, and hopefully I would have worked just as hard, but it does never get any easier. Like, you stress yourself out so much thinking like, once I get into Whole Foods, oh man, like
You've made it.
I've made it. Or once anything could be anything that the business might do. Once we have this new machine installed in production, like, okay, everything's gonna be smooth then. Just like getting comfortable with the idea that the work is challenging. And that's why the fun thing kind of comes back to me. So if you're acknowledging that and then you're not having fun, you're just gonna have a miserable existence for what you spend about half of your waking hours doing. And whether it's a mental shift, it's true or not true, like, to just say that that's how you're gonna be, like you're just not gonna enjoy that amount of time, it seems unacceptable to me. So that's what we're pushing for.
You know, your theme of work is fun. In order for it to be fun, it has to be your passion. You have to be so passionate about it. So what kind of advice do you have for our viewers, listeners that are thinking, I have this idea, I want to pursue it. Maybe they're not passionate about it on the onset. Maybe they can become passionate. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think you would get passionate about something that, I guess to say it in a different way, the people that come to work here are not passionate about popsicles, but over time they can figure out where they fit in and what about it within the business they can become passionate about. So I think it sometimes it helps me on the branding side to have a book called Work is Fun and I Sell Popsicles. But sometimes on the relating to people, it's harder, because if this was a plumbing business or something that's like less fun, I don't really think it's about the widget that you're selling. I think it's about how you look at it and try to care for it. So my advice would just be, find the parts that give you joy, and that might not be all parts of the business, and try to do as much of those as you can. When you're first starting, you're gonna have parts that aren't your favorite and you're not passionate about, and that certainly exists for me. As far as starting something though, I think I'm in the business of trying to sell people franchises, but there's just as many people where I'm like, you've got a lot of stuff going on. I get that you want to do this, but if you can't dedicate some amount of mental energy, it doesn't matter like how bad you want to do it, like it's just not going to fit. The hardest thing people get stuck on is time, and there's not really a right answer for how much time you need to start any business, but you do need to acknowledge that it's going to take away from something. So when I'm on the phone with people and they tell me, I ask how their week is set up currently, and I basically well, which of those things are you okay with not doing to do this? Because even if you're paying other people to be out on the cart, it's still just a lot of energy that you have to put into it. And if you're willing to make that trade, you should go for it. If it's things that are non-negotiables for you, you shouldn't. Excited to still be doing this. I think the piece that has been most powerful to me and to think about, I guess the last principle in the book that I wrote is about patience, and you spoke about this a little bit already, and I think the farm is a great example of it. It's all going to take time, and I've done this 15 years and I still feel like we've got so much room to figure out things. I'm planning on doing this forever. I think that's a very unique position for somebody to think they're doing what they're in for their entire career. But I know I can make it into kind of whatever I want. If I want to focus on something different, if I want to change the way the business operates, I can do that. So that's really lucky. I'd say just be patient. Don't be so hard on yourself. Realize that sticking with something is going to probably help out.
Pay off in the long run.
Yeah. We are about a little less than a half mile from the Beltline, and this is just where I lived. We started at Irwin Street Market in a shared kitchen. I could walk to the Buddies, our first spot, and then this is about another. It's all within a 1 mile bubble. So this is our area. It's where we have the most community, the most support, where we want to kind of impact and make a change, and we love it here. I think it's got its challenges, and this was an old metalworking building that we purchased, And you know, we want to make it a special place for Atlanta here. And we've been here since 2017 when we bought it.
Well, let's go check it out.
Yeah, let's check it out.
All right, so we're here at King of Pop's headquarters, second floor, mainly offices, but right when you walk in, I'm seeing kind of this wall of fame. Tell us about this. Lots of earned media.
A lot of little bit of everything. We got AJC, the early days. Dad's Garage actually did a musical about us.
Oh, that's cool.
A post-apocalyptic musical, so that was pretty surreal. But yeah, we've been in a lot of stuff. So when you're at a lot of stuff, they got plenty of stuff to write about, and we try our best to support them.
How did a lot of this come about? Did you guys pitch them, or they just saw the traction that King of Pops was making and reached out?
It's just fans. It's like, you know, our banker was a customer, and he's like, hey, you guys got a banker? The guy that got us into Whole Foods, the buyer of Whole Foods, was a customer. The person that wrote this musical that wanted to get it, you know, they were just somebody that was coming up to the cart chatting with us. You kind of never really think about who these people are, but they all are doing like things. Yeah. And you just forget about that, and you're like, customer, here, have your stuff. So yeah, these are just, I would say, mainly fans like that happen to be working at places, and they wanted to kind of share what they think is a kind of a cool story.
What is it like for you and your brother to kind of have this notoriety here in Atlanta, and then it's just expanded?
Yeah, I like to joke with my wife, I'm fairly famous in a 2-mile bubble. I wouldn't say it's really expanded that much, but yeah, I know pretty much everyone in this 2-mile bubble, which I love, and I think I've got a whole idea of like wear the shirt. Our car is obnoxiously wrapped with King of Pop's logos and stuff, and I want to be proud of the brand, and if I put on the shirt and I'm feeling like icky about it, it's usually something for me like, what am I not doing right? How can I be more proud of what I want to shift? So that's been my strategy to keep it where I'm always talking about stuff, always trying to figure out ways to get other people incorporated. It's popsicles, so it's pretty flexible.
It's always fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Here we are.
So tell us about this room, and then you showed me a little bit of piece of history.
Yeah, this is our break room / R&D kitchen. So this is where our amazing Frosty Freak lead, Jessica Luna, is making new pops all the time. Is also our very first machine. So it's about 16 years old, 15 years old. Makes 88 pops at a time, whereas in our freeze room we can make about 15,000 a day if we're humming. So that's the scale, that's the growth. We've got this room here, and then next to it we've got where we're doing all the mixing and blending. They've got a little pass-through freezer there where the barrels start to chill. Getting stuff cold is the name of the game. And then after the pops get packaged, they go into the big freezer. And then once a week we take them on a truck to warehouses, wherever they're gonna go, yeah.
All right, so we just saw where the magic happens. Where are we going next?
We're gonna go where the selling happens, another part of the magic.
Okay, all right.
Well, this is where they're setting up to go out each day. A lot of security.
I get it.
So in here, pretty simple business, but we've got a bunch of carts, a bunch of chalkboards, a bunch of rainbow umbrellas. You grab your cart out of the warehouse area, and then you go into the packing area, and you pick your flavors. Some freezers are full, some are empty, but we're constantly just cycling through flavors here. And this is gonna go out in the cart. So we still, we franchised our business, but we still operate the Midtown and Downtown Atlanta territories. And so we kind of want to understand, keep it fresh where we understand how the business is working. So we've got 5 pickup trucks out of here, and it's about half of our employees are folks that are out vending. So pretty simple business.
How many carts do you all have in here?
We have about 20 here.
Okay.
And just for context of the business, we'll send out about 120 on a busy Saturday.
Okay.
Company-wide.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And where are y'all getting these carts?
They're from Mexico, yeah. They're pretty common design, so there's a lot of suppliers of them, but you know, there's still a little bit of finagling to get just the umbrella holder in the correct place, and how you want your cold plates set up and all the little details.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But new flavors coming through here. We do a lot of pickups here. We do a lot of deliveries from here, and then we're mainly just taking the carts out and about.
Well, we see all the flavors. We got the chocolate sea salt, cookies and cream, banana, orange cream, Texas marg. What's your favorite?
Favorites, I have to say two, but my favorite on a hot day is blackberry ginger lemonade. My favorite, if I'm just eating one, is still the banana pudding. But there's some big ones coming up that are really nice, so it's hard to.
Can you share that or no?
Yeah, I mean, we have this road trip campaign going on where it's basically flavors from around the South. You collect all the sticks you get to come here and design a flavor with us, and then we pay for a road trip. We've got a camper van and a bunch of little prizes associated with it. So we've got 5 flavors. One of them right there is peach iced tea, Miami mojito, blackberry bramble. The peach iced tea is for Charleston. We have a cola float for none other than Atlanta, and then a spicy Texas margarita. Of those, they're all so good. They're really on point right now with the stuff they're making, but probably the Miami mojito, it's mango mojito. It's delicious.
Awesome.
Really good, yeah.
All right.
So we're all suited up. So this is setting the sticks in one at a time. You know, takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Can't really not do it. Once the sticks are in, we're pouring the molds. So you pour, each of them are hand poured, 22 per mold. Once that happens, drop them in here. And it takes about 15 minutes if the machines are running well to make it all the way through to here. You put the mold into this, you pull it out, you got the pops there. And then they go into a bin like this, and they drop it on the line. So, and we'll show you what it looks like. Last up, they roll into the freezer so they can head out to the streets.
You said how many pops will this room manufacture in a day?
They'll hope to make 15,000 today.
Wow.
That's a single shift. If it's really busy, we can add second shift or Saturdays, but usually that'll get us in a good spot.
And what about like this labeling machine? Where did you source that? Where's it from?
This is from Bosch. It's actually just from Wisconsin.
Oh, really? Okay.
All this stuff can be purchased in Latin America, which is where pretty much all the popsicles type stuff is made. But this needs a lot of techs to work on it. It breaks quite a lot. And so you get something local for that so someone can fly in and fix it a little easier.
So we just saw where the pops
freeze room.
Yep, freeze room.
This is the mix room. So we're making these 55-gallon barrels. We'll do 7 or 8 barrels a day. They go into the little holding freezer. That'll start chilling them, and they make their way into the freeze room.
So earlier you had mentioned the big freezer. Here it is.
Yeah, I think Luna's coming out right now. There she is, packing up a box, but we got, you're just living here? We have about 7 or 8 pallets ready to go. Go ahead.
Sorry.
And these will go out into the world as fast as we possibly can. We want to get these pops on carts, sold to people. So.
And it took you guys a while to get all these systems into place.
Yeah, we got it figured out. Yeah, I mean, that freezer will get completely filled in the winter because we're kind of stocking up. And then as it gets hotter and hotter, the pops start moving out immediately. They're on the carts in 2 or 3 days at this point for at least the Atlanta market.
So how many pops are on just one of those pallets?
25 pops in a box, about 5,000 pops on a pallet.
So you guys just since 2010 have had to figure out a ton of logistics.
Yeah, a lot of logistics, frozen logistics, important.
Which is not easy.
Not easy, no, not at all.
Well, Steve, thank you so much
Yeah,
for
it's
being
been a lot
on
of fun.
the Lucie Spotlight.
Yeah.
We can't wait to see the next growth trajectory.
Keep it rolling.
Yeah, keep going, and thanks for all that you're doing here
Appreciate
in our
it.
city of Atlanta.
Yeah, thanks for the kind words. Adios.
Our mission is simple. Create your news. When we create it, we hope to spotlight your purpose. Life's too short to be stuck in a world that becomes stale. What's your purpose? Are you living it? If not, the time is now. Thanks for listening and watching. Carpe Diem.